Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3. Internal combustion engine enables the driver to decide which source of power is appropriate for the travel requirements of a given journey. Major US auto manufacturers are now developing physical hybrid electric vehicles, and some are exploring fuel cell technology for their electric cars. Internal combustion engine enables the driver to decide which source of power is appropriate for the travel requirements of a given journey. Major US auto manufacturers are now developing feasible hybrid electric vehicles, and some are exploring fuel cell technology for their electric cars. Before the discovery of Australia, people in the world were convinced that all swans were white, and on a level belief, as it seemed completely confirmed by empirical evidence. The sighting of the first black swan might have been an interesting surprise for a few scientists, but that is not where the significance of the story lies. Before the discovery of Australia, people in the world were convinced that all swans were white, an unaccessible belief as it seemed completely confirmed by empirical evidence. The sighting of the first black swan might have been an interesting surprise for a few scientists, but that is not where the significance of the story lies. Researchers have designed an artificial intelligence model that is better able to predict how much students are learning in educational games. The improved model makes use of an AI training concept called multitask learning, and could be used to improve both instruction and learning outcomes. Researchers have designed an artificial intelligence model that is better able to predict how much students are learning in education. Researchers have designed an artificial intelligence model that is better able to predict how much students are learning in educational games. The improved model makes use of an AI training concept called multitasking learning, and could be used to improve both instruction and learning outcomes. For the designers and engineers who spent years crafting Team USA's uniform to offer both style and extraordinary aerodynamics, the need to keep athletes warm in these extreme temperatures posed an added dimension of difficulty. For the designers and engineers who spent years crafting Team USA's uniforms to offer both style and extraordinary aerodynamics, the need to keep athletes warm in these extreme temperatures posed an added dimension of difficulty. The power of the sun, wind, and sea may soon combine to produce clean burning hydrogen fuel, according to researchers. Or team integrated water purification technology into a new proof of concept design for a seawater electrolyzer, which uses an electric current to split apart the hydrogen and oxygen in water molecules. The power of the sun, wind, and sea may soon combine to produce clean burning hydrogen fuel, according to researchers. Or team integrated water purification technology into a new proof of concept designed for a seawater electrolyzer, which uses an electric current to split apart the hydrogen and oxygen in water molecules.
Applicants for the course should preferably have a degree in English or journalism.
Application for the course should have degree in journalism and education. Thank you very much.
Children are not allowed to be in the laboratory at any time.
Children are not allowed to be in the library at any time.
I would like the assignment to be less than 2,000 words.
I would like the assignment to be less than 2000 words.
The Internet provides unique opportunities for students to engage with current events.
The Internet provides unique opportunities for students to engage with current events.
The number of company bankruptcies skyrocketed in the third quarter.
The number of bankrupted is skyrocketed in the third year. Thank you very much.
The Lecture Theater 1 is located on the ground floor of the PAC building.
The lecture of Internet Theater is located at the third floor of ground building. Thank you very much, and I am very happy today.
You must ensure you do not include too much irrelevant information.
You must ensure you do not include too much relevant information.
All internship applications are available in the office.
All internship applications are available in the office.
The library offers group study rooms, so you can work with other students.
The library offers group study rooms, so you can work with other students.
Please be careful when using online translation programs.
Please be careful when using online translation program.
Good research provides many benefits to people.
Good research provides many benefits to people. The image gives information about media in UK. The primary feature of the image is internet in year 2000. The image gives information about media in UK. The primary feature of the image is the internet with the year 2001, 2003 and 2005, which has percentage 40%, 50% and 60% respectively. Furthermore, it conveys information about radio in the year 2001, 2003 and 2005 with the percentage 40%, 50% and 63%. And moreover, it compares between TV and newspapers. In TV, it shows like data about 20%, 20% which are equal, and it also gives information about 19%. Thank you. The image gives information about women in the labor force. The primary feature of the image is marital status in the year 1900 and 2011. Firstly, it shows data about age 25 to 54, not married and married. The image gives information about women in the labor force. The primary feature of the image is marital status in the year 1900 to 2011. Firstly, it shows data about ages between 25 to 54. Furthermore, it conveys information about not married and married. Moreover, it compares between year 1900 and 1910. The highest percent in the labor force is 90, whereas the lowest percent in the labor force is 10. And to conclude, the picture is about women in the labor force from the year 1900 to 2010. The image gives information about approximate composition of the year. Firstly, it shows data about oxygen and other gases. Furthermore, it gives nitrogen. The image gives information about the pie chart. The primary feature of the image is approximate composition of the year. Firstly, it shows data about oxygen and other gases. Furthermore, it gives information about nitrogen, which has 79%, and that is the highest percent in this pie chart. Moreover, it compares between other gases and oxygen, where oxygen has 20% and the other gas contain 1%. To conclude, the picture gives the details about the air quality.
A leader can define or clarify goals by issuing a memo or an executive order, an edict or a fatwa or a tweet, by passing a law, barking a command, or presenting an interesting idea in a meeting of colleagues. Leaders can mobilize people's energies in ways that range from subtle, quiet persuasion to the coercive threat or the use of deadly force. Sometimes a charismatic leader such as Martin Luther King Jr. can define goals and mobilize energies through rhetoric and the power of example. We can think of leadership as a spectrum, in terms of both visibility and the power the leader wields. On one end of the spectrum, we have the most visible, authoritative leaders like the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or a dictator such as Hitler or Gaddafi. At the opposite end of the spectrum is casual, low-key leadership found in countless situations every day around the world, leadership that can make a significant difference to the individuals whose lives are touched by it. Over the centuries, the first kind, the out-in-front, authoritative leadership, has generally been exhibited by men. Some men in positions of great authority, including Nelson Mandela, have chosen a strategy of leading from behind. More often, however, top leaders have been quite visible in their exercise of power. Women, as well as some men, have provided casual, low-key leadership behind the scenes. But this pattern has been changing, as more women have taken up opportunities for visible, authoritative leadership.
Leadership was the main topic of the lecture. Firstly, the speaker told about leader can define goal and meet with the colleagues. He further discussed about the use of deadly force. Furthermore, he explained about Martin Luther King. Moreover, he presented information about leadership skills. Towards the end, the speaker said that Prime Minister of United Kingdom and the United States. Towards the end, the speaker said that difference to individual life. In conclusion, the speaker focused on men are in great position and women are taking opportunities for leadership.
What do we call a period of 1,000 years?
Century, century, century.
How many days are there in a fortnight?
15 days, 15 days, 15.
What series of process will politicians go through for election?
Voting, voting, voting.
What is the act of reusing waste materials?
Recycle, recycle, reusable, dispose.
What is the term used to describe a period of 7 days?
Week, a week, a week, 1 week, week.
What do people usually use to cut food in the plate?
Knife, knives, spoon, fork, knife, knives.
A leader can define or clarify goals by issuing a memo or an executive order, an edict, or a fatwa or a tweet, by passing a law, barking a command, or presenting an interesting idea in a meeting of colleagues. Leaders can mobilize people's energies in ways that range from subtle, quiet persuasion to the coercive threat or the use of deadly force. Sometimes a charismatic leader such as Martin Luther King Jr. can define goals and mobilize energies through rhetoric and the power of example. We can think of leadership as a spectrum in terms of both visibility and the power the leader wields. On one end of the spectrum, we have the most visible, authoritative leaders like the President of the United States, or the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or a dictator such as Hitler or Gaddafi. At the opposite end of the spectrum is casual, low-key leadership found in countless situations every day around the world, leadership that can make a significant difference to the individuals whose lives are touched by it. Over the centuries, the first kind, the out-in-front, authoritative leadership, has generally been exhibited by men. Some men in positions of great authority, including Nelson Mandela, have chosen a strategy of leading from behind. More often, however, top leaders have been quite visible in their exercise of power. Women, as well as some men, have provided casual, low-key leadership behind the scenes. But this pattern has been changing as more women have taken up opportunities for visible, authoritative leadership.
Readjusting to life in your own country after living abroad for some time is a little like recovering from jet lag after a long flight across several time zones. It takes time. And research indicates that after 9 years of living in a foreign country, you never really do readjust. Of course, things have changed. Governments have come and gone. What you knew as countryside has become a suburb. New technologies have changed the way people go about their daily lives, and so on. These changes may well have been taking place in your adopted country, but they were happening while you were there, so you could adapt as you went along. Those are not the main difficulties, however. It is in the smaller, everyday things that you might experience what is known as culture shock, although it's not really a shock, but puzzling all the same. For example, the precise way to behave at a supermarket checkout may have changed, and in ordinary conversation, the frames of reference have changed, and quite often you find that you don't really know what people are talking about, even though they are speaking your native tongue.
I think it's really important for young people not to feel restricted in their choices and also to be aware of the choices that are available to them, and obviously the media has an incredibly important role to play in that. I think we tend to talk about science as this big kind of monolith, but of course actually it's this beautiful multifaceted thing. You know, there's almost something for everybody there. And there are so many different aspects of it. You know, somebody that's going to be attracted to working in biology might be a very different person from somebody who's attracted to engineering. I suppose it's about knowing the breadth of opportunities that are out there, and so anything that universities and broadcast media can do to make sure that those opportunities are visible.
Green chemistry is a concept designed to develop technologies which allow chemistry to be practiced with minimal damage to the environment, or in an environmentally compatible way, and it's meant to cover both chemical processes and chemical products. The center was set up about 7 or 8 years ago, and the idea was to provide a hub of activities that covered fundamental research work, international collaboration, but also educational development on public understanding of the project as well, and also networking, so we network out to well over 1,000 people around the globe.
Candace Galen is based at the University of Missouri in Columbia. And, being a biologist, she thought, why not use this astronomical phenomenon to study a biological one? Specifically, as the skies darkened, would daytime pollinators, like bumblebees and honeybees, call it quits? What better activity during an eclipse than to go out with a recorder and record the bees? So Galen asked 400 citizen scientists including young students to place audio recorders in 16 flower patches along the path of totality, in Oregon, Idaho and Missouri. When they analyzed the audio, they found that during partial eclipse, bee buzzing continued. But when totality hit, the bees went silent and only the conversational buzz of human observers could be heard. Then, as the moon passed and the sun again lit up the sky, the bees regained their buzz.
It seems to me that architecture is very much something that causes us both pleasure and trouble. I live in the part of Western London where I think many of the streets where I live, are really, really ugly. And this distresses me every time I walk to a supermarket or walk to a tube. I think, why did they build that? And terribly without architecture. It lasts so long, and if you write a bad book or do a bad play, I will be shocked when it is showed and no one would suffer. A bad building has a serious impact could be hundreds of years on the people around it. And suppose the book arose a little bit from frustration, almost anger, and there is so much bad architecture around. And then I realized if you talk about architecture, you will say why buildings are not more beautiful. And you will say I can use such a word as beauty. That's a really arrogant word. And no one knows what beautiful is. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I couldn't help but think that, actually. Well, that we all attempt to agree that Rome is nicer than Milky Kings, and San Francisco has the edge of Frankfurt, so we can make that sort of generalization. Surely there are some things we can say about why a building works or why it doesn't. So the books really attempt to suggest why architecture works when it does, and what might be going to be wrong when it doesn't work.
In my opinion, Pocahontas was a spy for the colonists. Yes, she served as a mediator between the British colonists and the Native Americans, but she was more of a spy. As you know, she even provided vital food supplies to the colonists. However, she didn't think of herself as a spy, and the colonists didn't trust her much despite her help. In a way, we could say she was a sad spy. Unfortunately, a war broke out between the Powhatans and the colonists. The colonists captured her and brought her to Jamestown. While she was in Jamestown as a hostage, she freely converted to Christianity and married John Rolfe. As we all know, this marriage brought the war to its end. What do you think? Was she a mediator or a spy? I believe she was a spy who played a role as a mediator.
1. What role did Pocahontas play between the British colony and the Native Americans?
China, which has both enjoyed sustained economic growth, face worrying challenges. There are worrying indications that social progress is starting to lag behind economic performance, with the slowdown in the rate of reduction in child deaths a special concern. The UN notes that China spends 5% of its GDP on health, but public spending now amounts to less than 2% of GDP. The erosion of public funding, it says, has resulted in a mismatch between need and provision, with per capita spending in urban areas 3.5 times that in rural areas. Between 70 and 80% of the rural population have no health insurance. Children living in the poorest parts of rural China face far greater health risks, and the gap is
Earlier this year, I was driving through the countryside with a girl of 6, and she pointed out some flowers by the wayside. I asked her what she thought flowers were for. She gave a very thoughtful answer. 2 things, she said, to make the world pretty and to help the bees make honey for us. I thought that this was a very nice answer, and I was very sorry to have to tell her that this wasn't. What's an article? I was asking myself this very question in the post office yesterday, standing in line waiting to sign for, as it so happens, an article. A postal article. Not the postal article. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, an article in English is a word that precedes a noun, and simply indicates specificity. This sounds quite complicated, and to be honest, it's quite complicated to say without spraying everyone within 15 feet, but the concept's quite simple. The definite article in English is the word, the, and indicates a specific thing or type. For example, the train is an hour late. By contrast, the indefinite article in English is any of the words, a, an, or, some, and the indefinite article indicates a non-specific thing. For example, would you please pass me an apple? We always precede a word with, a, if it doesn't start with a vowel sound. For example, take a hike. I'm spending a weekend at Bernie's, or there's a knight in shining armor. Similarly, we precede words with the indefinite article, an, if they do start with a vowel sound, for example, an ostrich, an enormous mess, or an occupational health and safety policy.
Well, there's a positive obligation on the bank to ensure that the people who are signing a loan guarantee know what they're doing. Loan guarantees are kind of unique in that someone is giving security or a guarantee and placing themselves at risk for someone else, and they receive nothing material in return. So you've got to ask yourself, why is this person doing this? Do they know what they're doing? They're risking a lot and not really getting anything back for it. So the imperative is that the bank must ensure that these people know what they're doing and that they fully understand the implications of what they're doing, and they know that their properties may be sold if another person doesn't meet their obligations.
If you're ever worried that you've had one too many drinks after a night of bar hopping, you might want to ask yourself, are my ears ringing? Because it turns out that when the music gets loud, we tend to drain our mug of brew faster. That's according to a study to be published in the journal Alcoholism, Clinical and Experimental Research. Researchers staked out 2 bars in the west of France and observed drinking habits of 40 patrons. With permission from bartenders, the scientists pumped up the volume of a top 40 station from 72 to 88 pounding decibels. In this ear-splitting din of pop music, patrons drank more in less time. While it's been known that music played in the mall can influence consumer behavior, this study is the first to take that theory to the bar scene. The researchers speculate loud music may energize and excite bar hoppers, making them more likely to binge. Or they say perhaps it was just too loud to talk, so people focused instead on their pint-sized companions. Either way, if you're trying to cut back on your beer, might I suggest an earplug chaser?
Students who study environmental biology need to do field work.
Archaeologists discovered tools and artifacts in ancient tombs.
It is doubtful whether projects can be finished this week. Students in science will have to choose a major between chemistry and biology.